Okay, let's discuss this further and speak to Dr. Ariel Cohen. And Dr. Cohen served in the Israel Defense Forces and is now a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, joining us from Washington this evening. Hello and welcome to the programme, Doctor.
So, it's a pleasure.
I wonder, first off, let's begin with this proposal presented by President Biden, who said it was actually Israel's proposal. Just talk us through that three-phase proposal and also the language that has been used. Why is it President Biden proposing an Israeli proposal?
I think President Biden has as his very high priority to stop the hostilities, especially amidst a presidential campaign that his future, his political future, is unclear despite the conviction of the former President Trump in the battleground states. Trump was leading 5 out of 6 states. And the left wing of the Democratic Party is staunchly in favor of a ceasefire that would save Hamas. Why is this an Israeli proposal is not clear to me. I think it's President Biden's proposal because if I read it carefully, it leaves Hamas in a political leadership position in Gaza. It doesn't stipulate who is going to control Gaza, the Gazan cities after Israeli withdrawal from the cities. And Israel, of course, remains in the security zones in Gaza. Moreover, it emphasizes the release of hostages in the first stage, 30 hostages, and then the remaining living hostages. The figures I see is that 40 of the hostages are dead. And at the same time, the proposals release 700 Arab prisoners from Israeli jails, including terrorists with blood on their hands, with the murderers. And this is not a good deal for Israel. It's a good deal for Hamas. Sinwar, the leader of Hamas military wing in Gaza, already made it clear that he considers such a deal a victory for Hamas. And it doesn't stipulate the withdrawal of Hamas and their relocation, as we discussed earlier in this conflict. So if Hamas remains in Gaza, give it a year, give it 2, it will rearm and it will continue the attacks, such as we saw before October 7th, rocket attacks, smaller terrorist attacks. And Hamas leadership said, we will repeat October 6th, horrible, massive terrorist attack. Yes, go ahead. Please.
Okay, a couple of points there. Sorry, I was trying very carefully to pick through what you were saying. So let's just go back to your point that this would be a good deal for Hamas and not for Israel. As I say that, we have live pictures coming from Tel Aviv, and these are thousands, as we are hearing via various news agencies, Israelis within Benjamin Netanyahu's country here gathering, demanding that Mr. Netanyahu accepts this new proposal. It may not be a good deal for Netanyahu, but it seems as if there are growing calls within Israel that this comes to an end.
Absolutely. My heart goes out to the families of the kidnapped men, women, and children. It's heartbreaking what these people are suffering in Hamas captivity. They're being tortured, they're being starved, they're being beaten and raped. Having said that, the outcome, the strategic outcome of this conflict is important for long-term survival of both Israelis and people of Gaza. I do not want to see Gaza being bombed. I do not want to see people in Gaza being killed and suffering. By God, I mean, all these people in Israel and in Gaza, in the Middle East, suffered enough. And to end this, you need to get Hamas out of the equation. And then the question is, do you bring the British peacekeepers? Do you bring the EU peacekeepers? Or maybe United Arab Emirates? Or maybe Egyptians, but you cannot leave Iran-supported murderers in charge of Gaza because it is going to be, as we say, Groundhog Day. We'll see it again and again.
Dr. Cohen, if you're saying that Hamas needs to be removed and you're saying that they could well stay in the enclave for 1 to 2 years, what will be left of Palestinians in 1 to 2 years if the IDF continues the campaign, the scale of the campaign that we have seen over, particularly since Rafah, that we have seen in the last few weeks? What's going to be left of Palestinians?
Population of Gaza is over 2 million people. I think it's 2.2 or 2.4. The claims of genocide are bogus. Nobody's trying to kill all of the Palestinians because they're Palestinians. Israel is going after Hamas leaders and Hamas fighters. And you saw the pictures, just as I did, of a guy in a T-shirt in regular civilian pants.
I hear what you're saying.
Shooting an RPG.
I hear what you're saying.
So that's a fighter.
Unfortunately, though, it's Palestinians and Gazans who are being killed. Clearly, who's accountable for them?
Hamas. Hamas is to blame for starting this horrible terrorist attack. And until Hamas is not taken out of this equation and replaced by a more peace-loving force, be it entirely Palestinian, mixed Arab-Palestinian, or a force that includes people from the global community, this conflict is only going to cause more and more casualties. And by the way, I'm not a supporter of Bibi Netanyahu. I can talk at length about his failures and the Israeli leadership failures before, during, and after the attack of October 7th, the failure of information warfare, a failure operationally not to finish this war way before this point in time.
Are you then in favour and in support of Ben Gvir, who this evening has threatened to bring down the government should Mr. Netanyahu pull his troops out of Gaza?
No, I consider Mr. Ben Gvir a dangerous ultra-nationalist, and the better place for him is going to be at home, not even the Knesset, not even in the parliament. He is poisonous. He is a horrible propagandist, and the Israelis are better off with that.
I can't quite understand then. If you are not in favour of Mr. Netanyahu, you are not in favour of elements, fairly right-wing elements within the government who do not want IDF forces to come out of Gaza, and yet you're saying that Hamas has to be agreeing essentially with what Mr. Netanyahu is saying. Hamas has to be stopped. How on earth is that going to happen without more lives being lost within Gaza, without those hostages and those families and the protesters we can see on the screen in Tel Aviv not taking to the streets for the next 1 to 2 years, wanting their family back? How do you do that?
All I'm saying is that if the hostages are released and Hamas leaves Gaza, or the leaders of Hamas, like Sinwar, a world mass murderer, that the blood of 1,200 people are on his head, these people needs to be brought to justice. That's what I'm saying. Which part of the Israeli government does it? It's not my concern. Clearly, the military will be involved. Clearly, the security service being involved. And what I'm saying is what a lot of Israelis are saying. And I'm not taking a political position within Israeli politics. Whoever Israelis vote for, it's a democratic country with many parties, more parties than in Great Britain, in the British Parliament, and they are perfectly capable to decide how to proceed.
Okay, and obviously on the genocide claim, you said that there is not a genocide taking place.
Nobody, I'm sorry, nobody said. The U.S. State Department, U.S. presidency, even the UN did not say it's genocide. Let's make it very clear.
Okay. Obviously, we have the statements and the actions and the calls that have come from the International Criminal Court and the World Court as well.
They did not say it's genocide.
No, I'm referring more to the calls that this is that this is ended since South Africa brought its
that case is calling for Israel to stop the operations. It did not have a finding. I'm a lapsed lawyer. I read it very carefully. Okay. There is no finding of genocide on the Israeli operation in Gaza. Sorry.
Okay. Dr. Ariel Cohen, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.